You won't believe what this 90-year-old man told me in the ER that night. And I know people say that kind of thing all the time, but trust me, after more than a decade working night shifts, I've learned to recognize when a moment is about to stay with me forever. This one didn't just stay. It changed the way I look at life, aging, regret, and even my own job. And it all started on one of those shifts where nothing goes the way you expect. I remember walking into the ER that evening, already feeling the pressure of the chaos brewing. The waiting room was full. Triage was backed up. One of our monitors kept alarming even though no one could figure out why, and we were short-staffed. Of course we were. It's like the universe always chooses the busiest nights to remind us we work in a place where calm is just a myth. I was barely clocked in when I heard the paramedics roll in a stretcher with an older man. Frail, thin, but with eyes so sharp they looked like they could cut glass. He wasn't confused. He wasn't scared. He wasn't even irritated like some elderly patients get when they're brought in against their will. He looked ready for something I didn't understand yet. "Evening," I said, stepping toward the stretcher. "What's your name, sir?" He smiled, just slightly, like he knew something I didn't. "You can call me Walter," he said. His vitals were stable for a man his age, blood pressure a little low, heart rhythm irregular but not new. The paramedics told me he had been feeling weak, more tired than normal, and his granddaughter insisted he be checked out because he looked pale and not like himself. That's how they phrased it. I see that 10 times a week. But something about him made me pay attention. I don't know if it was the way he kept scanning the room or the way he didn't complain about his discomfort. Most people his age will tell you everything that's wrong with them, and everything they think is wrong with your hospital too. But Walter stayed quiet, observing, almost like he was waiting for the right moment to speak. I guided him to one of our bays, helped him change into a gown, placed him on the monitor, and asked a few routine questions. That's when I noticed it. His hands. They were trembling, not heavily, but enough that I saw he was trying to hide it. He kept them clasped together on his lap like he didn't want me to notice. I did, of course. Nurses notice everything, even the things we wish we didn't. "Have you been eating okay?" I asked. He nodded. "My appetite comes and goes." "Any recent falls?" "No." "Any pain?" He shook his head again, but his eyes flicked away for a moment. He wasn't lying, but he was hiding something. Sometimes those two things look the same. While I set up the blood pressure cuff and pulse ox, he cleared his throat like he wanted to say something. But every time words seemed to rise to the surface, he'd swallow them back down. I didn't push. Some patients need time. A few minutes later, his granddaughter arrived. A woman in her 30s with the kind of frantic energy that tells you she's been worried long before the ambulance was called. She stood at the foot of the bed wringing her hands, asking him if he felt okay, if he needed anything, if this or that was hurting him. He reassured her gently, patiently, like someone who had spent his whole life calming the storms of others. "Sir," I said after a while, "the doctor will be in soon. In the meantime, is there anything you need?" He looked at me with the most piercing expression I've ever seen from a patient. "Actually," he said softly, "there is something." I expected him to ask for water, or a blanket, or help adjusting the bed. Something simple. But instead, he leaned in slightly, his voice lowering to almost a whisper. "Can you sit with me for a moment? There's something I want to tell you before the night gets ahead of us." My heart dropped when he said that. Not because I thought he knew something medical we didn't, but because I've heard older patients speak like that. They don't mean they're in danger. They mean they've been carrying words for too long. I sat down on the little stool beside his bed and folded my hands on my lap. "Of course," I said. "I'm here." His granddaughter looked like she wanted to stay, but he gently nodded toward the hallway. She hesitated, then stepped out to give us privacy. As soon as she left, Walter exhaled deeply. A long, weary breath. Not from physical exhaustion, but emotional. "I haven't told anyone what I'm about to tell you," he said. I nodded, waiting, giving him space. He kept his eyes fixed on the curtain, like he was talking to someone who wasn't even in the room. "I'm 90 years old," he started. "You get to this age, and people think you've said everything there is to say. But that's not true. Some things people take with them, not because they want to, but because they don't know who would understand." His voice was steady, but soft, almost fragile. "I wasted a lot of time," he continued. "More than I ever admitted, even to myself." I felt my chest tighten. Regret is one of the heaviest things you can hear from someone who's lived nearly a century. He looked at me then, those sharp, almost glowing eyes locking onto mine. "Do you know the real tragedy of getting old?" he asked. I didn't answer. I wanted him to keep talking. "It's not the pain," he said. "It's not the weakness. It's not even the loneliness. The tragedy is realizing you spent your whole life being busy with the wrong things." I swallowed. He continued. "When I was younger, I worked every day. Long hours. I thought providing for my family was the greatest thing I could do. And maybe it was. But while I was providing, I wasn't living. Not really." His voice shook, not from age, but from emotion. "I missed birthdays, dinners, small moments. You don't think much of it at the time. You tell yourself you'll make it up later, but later doesn't wait." I felt something twist inside me, not just as a nurse, but as a person who has missed plenty of dinners, holidays, and weekends because of this job. He took another slow breath. "And the worst part," he said, "is realizing that the people you wanted to spend time with learn how to live without you." My throat tightened. I wasn't expecting his words to hit me the way they did. He went on. "My wife. God, she was patient. She waited for me to slow down. I always said soon. We'll take that trip soon. We'll have more time soon." He pressed his trembling fingers together. But soon didn't come. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the weight of his own words settle. When she passed, he said softly, "I realized I didn't have memories with her. Not the kind that matter. I had plans, dreams, wishes, but not moments. The moments belong to the time you actually show up." I felt my eyes sting. "You never think you'll get emotional on shift. You don't have time for that. But sometimes a patient reminds you you're human." When he opened his eyes again, they were wet. Not crying, but holding things he had carried alone for too long. "I don't know how much longer I'll be here," he said, "but I promised myself something. I wouldn't leave without telling someone the truth I learned too late." I whispered. "What truth?" He held my gaze, and in the quietest, most deliberate voice, he said, "Life is shorter than you think, even when you're 90. He paused. "And the people you love, they're the real work. Everything else is noise." Before I had the chance to answer, one of the machines beeped. Just a routine blood pressure reading, but it jolted us both back into the ER reality. I gently touched his arm. "Thank you for telling me," I said. But he shook his head. "I'm not done," he said. "Not even close." He straightened slightly, his frail body gathering the strength of someone who needed to unburden himself before the clock ran out. "There's one more thing," he said quietly. "Something I've never told anyone. Something that's been sitting on my chest for 60 years. And just as he prepared to speak, the curtain whipped open, the doctor stepping in with his tablet, ready to ask questions and interrupt everything. Walter looked at me with urgency, real urgency, for the first time. "Please," he whispered. "Come back when you can. I need to finish this." I nodded, placing a hand over his. "I will," I said. "I promise." But I had no idea what he was about to tell me, and I had no idea how his next words, when I finally returned, would shake me in a way I never expected. The moment the doctor stepped in, everything shifted back into ER mode. The lights felt brighter, the alarms louder, the pace faster. The doctor started asking Walter the usual questions, checking his heart, reviewing the EKG, trying to figure out whether this was something acute or just another chapter in the long book of aging. Walter answered politely, but I could see the restlessness beneath the surface. His eyes kept flicking toward me, almost begging me not to disappear before he could finish what he started. I stayed as long as I could, but when another nurse called me for help with a patient who was getting agitated in the next bay, I had to step out. That's the thing about working in the ER. Your moments with patients are constantly interrupted by something louder, more urgent, more chaotic. But I didn't forget his words. They stayed with me like a voice echoing in the back of my mind. Life is shorter than you think, even when you're 90. The people you love, they're the real work. Those lines kept replaying in my head as I helped calm down the other patient, got vitals, assisted with meds, and navigated a night that felt like it was getting busier by the minute. Every time I walked past Walter's bay, he watched me, waiting, patient but tense, like someone holding a truth so heavy he couldn't stand to carry it alone anymore. When the chaos finally slowed and the doctor moved on to other patients, I slipped back into Walter's room. His granddaughter had returned, but the moment she saw me approach, Walter gave her a gentle look. She understood. She stepped out again, giving us privacy. "I'm sorry," I said softly as I sat back down. "It got busy." He nodded. "I know how it is. I've spent enough time in hospitals to know you're always doing the work of 3 people." He wasn't wrong. I leaned closer. "You said there was something else you wanted to tell me." His expression shifted into something I can only describe as relief mixed with fear. Not fear of the hospital, or his health, or the future, but fear of the truth he'd been hiding for decades. He took a long, shaky breath. "I've lived 90 years, he said. "And for 60 of those years, I've carried a secret, one that weighed on me every single day, one that changed the course of my life in ways I never admitted out loud." I felt the air in the room thicken. Even the monitors seemed quieter, like they knew something important was about to be said. "I told you I worked too much," he continued. "But that's not the whole story. I didn't just work too much. I hid in my work." His fingers traced a slow pattern on the blanket, like he was trying to steady himself through the confession. "When I was young, before I married my wife, I was in love with someone else." I stayed silent, letting him speak at his own pace. She was unlike anyone I had ever met. Kind, gentle, sharp-minded. We were young and stupid and thought we had the whole world ahead of us. He paused, closing his eyes as though he could still see her face. But her family didn't approve of me. I didn't have money. I didn't come from the right background. They pushed her away from me, and I, being young and full of pride, didn't fight for her the way I should have. I let her walk out of my life. My throat tightened. "Years later, I married my wife," he continued, "and she was a good woman. A wonderful woman. I cared for her deeply. But that first love, I never forgot her. I pushed the memory down. I convinced myself it didn't matter. But the truth is, part of me never stopped wondering what would have happened if I'd fought for her." His voice trembled as he went on. I buried myself in work so I wouldn't have to feel the regret. I told myself I was providing, building a life, doing the right thing. But it was running. That's all it was. Running from the fact that I'd let the one great love of my life slip through my fingers. He opened his eyes and looked straight at me. Do you know how many nights I laid awake next to my wife, wondering where that other woman was? Whether she was happy, whether she had someone who loved her? He swallowed. And do you know how many times I hated myself for thinking that? My chest ached. These weren't just memories. They were scars. And it wasn't fair, he said. Not to my wife. Not to me. Not to anyone. I spent decades pretending I was fine. Pretending I didn't have a ghost standing in the room with me everywhere I went. A ghost of a life I could have had. A ghost of a decision that changed everything. He clasped his hands together, harder this time. I stayed with my wife because she deserved loyalty. She deserved a man who kept his word. And I did keep my word. I was faithful. I took care of her. I stood by her, but I never told her that she wasn't the only one I had ever loved. His voice softened into a whisper. And I regret that. Not because I wanted to leave her. God, no. But because she deserved all of my heart. And I never learned how to stop comparing what I had with what I lost. He took a trembling breath. We can't go back, he said. We think we can rewrite the past in our minds. We try, but the truth stays the same. And the truth is, sometimes we lose the right things, and sometimes we lose the wrong things, and sometimes we don't know which is which until it's too late. He wiped the corner of his eye. I loved my wife, and I wonder, if I had told her the truth from the beginning, if I had been honest about my heart, maybe she would have helped me heal. Maybe we would have built something even stronger. Maybe I wouldn't have spent so many years pretending. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. You're a young woman, he said softly, gesturing toward me. Let me tell you something. Don't live a life of pretending. Don't love halfway. Don't give your time to people who don't matter. Don't save your good words for later. Later is a thief. He took a moment to breathe before continuing. I look at my granddaughter, he said. She still has time to choose the life she wants. Time to choose love. Time to fight for the right things. And I'm terrified she'll make the same mistakes I did. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. And I'm telling you this because maybe you'll understand. Maybe you'll tell someone else someday. Maybe it will save them decades of regret. You never know how far the truth you speak can reach. Before I could respond, the curtain opened again. This time it was the lab tech coming to draw blood. I stepped aside, wiping the corner of my eye discreetly, and watched as Walter offered his arm, patient and composed. After the lab tech left, I returned to his side. Thank you for trusting me, I said quietly. He smiled, warm, genuine, tired. You listened, he said. That's all an old man can ask for. We talked a little more about lighter things like his grandkids and how he still made the best pancakes in the family even though he hadn't cooked in years. But the heaviness of his confession lingered in the air, wrapped around his bed like a soft, painful truth. As the night continued, his tests came back stable enough for him to be discharged. His weakness was due to dehydration and mild anemia. Nothing dangerous, nothing requiring admission. His granddaughter helped him sit up, and I brought him some water to sip. Before he left, he reached out and held my hand. His grip was weak but meaningful. You saved me tonight, he said. I shook my head gently. We didn't do much, medically. I don't mean that, he said. I mean, you let me unburden my heart. You gave me a place to leave what I've carried too long. That matters more than you know. I felt something shift inside me, a mixture of honor, sadness, and the understanding that some of the most important moments in healthcare have nothing to do with medicine. His granddaughter thanked me, helped him into a wheelchair, and began to push him toward the exit. He looked back one last time and gave me a soft smile, and I knew, without a doubt, that his words would stay with me for the rest of my life. Moments like that don't happen often, but when they do, they remind you why this job, for all its exhaustion and chaos, still has purpose. Sometimes people don't need medicine. They need a witness. They need someone to hear their story. And that night, I was his witness. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. It means more than you know. If you enjoyed this and want more real stories from inside the ER, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps this channel grow and brings more stories to life.